For today's story, we are talking about the updates in the Rust shooting and Alec Baldwin's phone being searched pursuant to a search warrant. Hello everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this legal education content, and today may be the day I earn your subscription. For today's story, we are covering the latest in the Rust shooting, and this is still being investigated. And most notably, perhaps, we have seen a search warrant be issued for Mr. Baldwin's phone. So we're going to read the search warrant because it's always nice to see how one looks. Now, different places do them differently, so this isn't like a universal format or something, but it will be very informative anyway because they will look similar enough when you see them again that hopefully you'll be able to recognize them. It's always nice to see what one of these legal documents looks like, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to be this is the search warrant that's actually issued, the actual document, the actual warrant, right? So here it is. So this is in the matter to issuance of a search warrant in regards to the seizure and search of a cellular phone believed to be an Apple iPhone due to conversations between affiant, that would be the person swearing out the warrant, and Alec Baldwin being conducted through iMessaging. The phone belongs to Alec Baldwin, is believed to be in his possession, and has a mobile number of something ending in 3999. The full telephone number is known, however, it is redacted for confidentiality and privacy. The carrier for the phone is Verizon Wireless. So yes, of course, because this is a public document, not everyone gets a copy to Mr. Baldwin's phone, but hey, you know the last 4 digits, so use your imagination, I guess, for the rest. Search warrant to the state of New Mexico to any officer authorized to execute this warrant. Proof by affidavit for search warrant having been submitted to me, I am satisfied there's probable cause that the person named or property described in this affidavit is located where aligned in the affidavit, and I find, so that means where is it, because you have to specify with specificity the thing to be searched and the place to be searched, right? So you have to know both those things. Where is it and what is it? For the person or property described in the affidavit, serving this warrant together with a copy of the affidavit and making the search, and if the person or property is found there, to seize the person or the property and hold for safekeeping until further order of the court. You're further directed to prepare a written inventory of any person or property seized. You're further directed to file this return and written inventory within the court promptly after its execution. So yeah, this is your search warrant. Go forth and execute it. And also there's a line here that I kind of missed, that this has to be served between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. So this isn't a nighttime warrant. So in this jurisdiction, what they consider to be nighttime is between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. 6 a.m. is not considered to be night. Well, anyways, you can search it within that thing. All right. So here's the affidavit for the search warrant, right? So according to the U.S. Constitution, of course, according to the U.S. Constitution, right, a search warrant has to be predicated on a sworn oath or affidavit to that effect. It's in the 4th Amendment, and has to specify the things to be searched and the places to be seized. So you have to specify, what are your reasons for searching? What is the thing, and where is the thing? So you can go do that. So that is all the things that the Constitution requires. So we're going to tell you, so we're telling you what it is. So the cellular phone of Alec Baldwin, and we're going to block out his birth date, even though like everyone knows what it is, but okay. So we want to seize the phone. A forensic download of this cellular phone to include digital images, digital movies, emails, social network accounts, social network private messages, deleted digital images, deleted digital movies, evidence of multiple or deleted social network accounts, internet browser history, phone book, stored contacts, network connection logs, text messages, MMS and SMS, to include aftermarket text applications. So that would be like WhatsApp, for example. Phone use timelines, event logs, database cache histories, image cache histories, passwords or documents containing possible passwords, access to any cloud drives, which may contain digital images or digital movies or documents including passwords. All contacts, including names, phone numbers, addresses, and all other information included with the contact. Recent call list that will display all recent phone numbers that have been called on the cellular phone or have been dialed from the cellular phone. All graphic files and multimedia files that could include photographs taken by the phone or transferred onto the phone by another service, video taken by the phone or transferred onto the phone by another service, or any other mixed media messages that might contain both graphic and video files. This also includes any audio-only recordings that were taken by the phone or transferred to the phone by another service. Some of these files could appear as text, but be part of a media presentation. All short message service messages and mixed media messages stored on the phone, including any attachments with the messages, including the recipient's address and date timestamp information, commonly associated with these messages. SMS and MMS are not limited only to text messages, as it's common in some phones to use different services than standard text messaging. Again, think WhatsApp as a good example. And these messages can be in other applications running on the cellular phone. So all those ones too. Any owner information found on the phone, identifying the telephone number that's assigned to it, what cellular provider, and any other name or other demographical information commonly found on cellular phones. Any global positioning system data that can be stored on some telephones, which includes physical locations associated with dates and times of where the phone was physically present. Any other removable memory present on the phone that could contain any above items. This includes SIM cards. The affiants, that would be the police officer who's the police officer who's swearing this out. The affiant also requests to take photographs of the phone, including photographs of some or all the information contained on the phone, as is presented on the screen, which might have occurred if the phone cannot be downloaded. So in the event that for some reason they can't download it, they say, hey, how about just taking a bunch of shots with your camera and do it that way. The affiant is requesting all information data from the cellular phone in relation to the production of Rust, and any member working on the production. Pursuant to ECPA, no information will be collected as unrelated to the objective of the investigation. Okay, so that is a lot of things. And you know, and you may not realize how much exposure you have on your cell phone, right? You may not have thought about it, or you may have thought about it in parts. But you may not realize just how many things are on your phone, how much data is on your phone, and how many crimes the phone is a central feature. The phone is a dominant feature. That's like the way policing is done these days is from cellular phones. Where they were, when they were, broadcast towers, stuff on the phone, who you called, where you went, photos you took, photos you deleted, contacts you created, contacts you deleted, social media accounts, anything that it can access, all those passwords, all that stuff, right? We want to get all that information from this phone. We would like to know, for example, although not limited to, who you might have called in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Were you talking to a PR firm? Were you talking to your lawyer? Were you talking to your mother or your wife? You know, who did you call? Did you send them any photos? Did you take any photos of the scene? Did you take anything? Can we show where you were? Were there any calls that were made, perhaps leading up to the shooting? So calls we might be particularly interested might be, for example, from the assistant director, from the armorer, from other people who might have called to express safety concerns about the set, or emails or text messages along those lines, or other things that might go to show your state of mind in the hours and perhaps even days leading up to and leading from the event, right? There's a nice little window of time where we might be interested in things. You know, were you sleep deprived? Were you working really long hours, driving a lot? Were you sleep deprived? Were you negligent that way? Were you intoxicated? Were you drinking? Were you on drugs? Are there records that might display that? Oh, who did you talk to? Oh, now let's go talk to those people. What did you guys talk about? And so forth and so on, right? So you may not fully appreciate just how much data is on your phone, but you know, it's a lot. It's a lot of data. And so that data, they're going to comb through it and find the text messages, the emails, the photos that might exist, photos that he took or received either before or after the event. Photos before the event, why would those be relevant? Think. Why would photos after the event be relevant? Think. Right? It's like, yeah, you can imagine scenarios of why this information might be useful. So yeah, we want all those things, and yeah, we want it, and you're going to give us your phone, and we're going to download all the things, and we're going to find out what you've been up to as part of our investigation. So we're pretty serious. All right, so here are the facts that support this search warrant, right? So we've told you what we want to search and how. And now we're going to tell you why we think we can do this. Why do we have probable cause a crime might have been committed? Now, I know this is a bit ridiculous because we all know why there's probable cause, but we still have to spell it out anyway. So the affiant, the person swearing this, is a full-time certified police officer in the state of New Mexico, currently commissioned in salary by Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department, where he has served as a violent crimes detective in the Criminal Investigation Division. They have 4 years of law enforcement experience. The affiant is aware that the suspects, victims, and/or witnesses may document information relating to the crimes on computers or other forms of social media. No shit. No shit. The amount of people who document their own crimes is amazing. Or maybe it's not amazing, but it's a lot. And it might not necessarily be you, but it might be someone. We'll get to all those people, right? They often make or receive telephone calls and messages before, during, or after the commission of crimes. Yeah. Such information, if it exists, may be material and relevant to the investigation. This warrant shall include the viewing, listening to, copying, transcribing, transferring, or recording of the data on the herein described items to be seized. We get copies of all that shit. The police officer swearing to this is aware through training and experience that people who have apparent knowledge of an incident often reach out to individuals involved in ongoing criminal investigations. Individuals could also have been at the incident location scene and later attempt to communicate with each other during the time of law enforcement personnel are executing the warrant. Yeah, maybe it's possible that they were talking to each other to coordinate stories or to wonder about what so-and-so might say or something like that. Hey, why were you talking to this member of the cast or this member of the cast or this member of the cast? What were you talking about? Were you coordinating your stories? Were you planning your defenses together? Were you conspiring after the fact to perhaps withhold information or stuff, right? Yeah. And the cop is like, well, I've been doing this for 4 years and I already know this. I believe him. I believe he knows these things. I know these things. We're not idiots over here, right? The affiant, who is the cop swearing to all this, interviewed multiple people in reference to the incident, to include the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the gun handler, Alec Baldwin, and the assistant director, David Halls. These are definitely your 3 principal suspects over here. During Hannah's interview, she says during the morning of the incident, 10/21/2021, she got to work and got the guns out. So she was there that morning. She advised her coworker, Sarah Zachary, to help her out with the morning task. Hannah advised after they retrieved the guns, they took them to set. Hannah said while on set, she dummied the guns up with dummy rounds. Hannah stated they got on set around 7:30 a.m., but didn't dummy the guns up until a short time before lunch. So so she is saying that they went there that morning. She asked someone for help. They got the guns, took them to set, and they dummied up the guns with dummy rounds at some point prior to lunch. Okay. Hannah advised that when they all returned from lunch, Sarah pulled the gun out of the safe, the gun utilized by Alec, and handed it to her. So this was an interesting aspect, and this, of course, this is not necessarily true. I don't believe the cop is lying. I believe he's telling the truth. But what they're saying to him may or may not be true, right? This is what they're telling him. And sometimes people lie to the police. Of course, sometimes police lie. But we'll assume for the moment that the police officer is telling the truth. People who might be facing criminal liability are more motivated than just a cop on a normal day, all things considered. So we'll be a little bit more skeptical towards them and not quite as skeptical to the officer for that reason. So they say, well, this went into a safe. So we loaded it with dummy rounds. It went into the safe. It came out of the safe. Because there had been speculation that this gun might have been used during lunch for some, plinking around. And so they're saying, hey, that didn't happen. Whatever might have been true for other guns, this particular gun was in a safe. So Sarah pulls the gun out of the safe and hands it to her. So she's saying it was in the safe, because presumably she sees this. the affiant, the cop, asked Hannah if she loaded the gun after lunch, to which she stated it was already loaded before they went to lunch. Hannah advised, we had the gun the whole time before that, and nothing happened. And I wasn't there, and they weren't even supposed to be pulling the hammer back. The cop who's doing the interviews asked Hannah to clarify whether the guns were located before lunch, to which she reported they were inside with the camera crew, and she was hardly allowed inside due to COVID preparations. So maybe someone else had access to the safe? I mean, it's possible. Hannah said at one point David Halls had the gun when he was sitting in for the shot. She advised she handed the gun off to David while he was sitting in, and this handoff occurred after lunch. So now we've got it moving through a couple people's hands that we know about. Right? So we got this guy David. We got this girl Sarah. It came out of a safe, but she wasn't with it because she wasn't in there due to COVID. Did someone else have access to the safe? I mean, you would hope the answer is no, but I would be surprised if the assistant director didn't have the code for the safe. I mean, he really shouldn't, because it really should be the armorer for obvious safety reasons. But you know, that's obviously going to be part of the defense. Did anyone know the code? And did those people tell people who might have told people who might have told people? Right? Who had the code? Did anyone go in and get it in between lunch and change it? I mean, you know, these are questions that we get to ask. Hannah advised that she handed the gun to Alec Baldwin a couple times in the morning inside the set. Hannah said at one point David Halls had the gun while he was sitting in for the shot. She advised she handed the gun off to Dave while he was sitting in, and this handoff occurred after lunch. The cop who's doing all these investigations asked Hannah when the last time she loaded the gun was. And she advised she loaded the gun with 5 dummy rounds before lunch. Hannah stated there was one round that wouldn't go in. So after lunch, she took the cleaner, cleaned it out, and put another round in, which brought the total to 6 rounds loaded in the weapon. Hannah described the gun to be a long barrel Colt 45. Okay. So this is we're beginning to paint a picture in our mind of things that might have happened. So we loaded this 6-shot revolver with only 5 shots. Because apparently, for some reason, the 6th shot wouldn't go in. And we couldn't be bothered to fix that before lunch. So we put it in the safe. And then after lunch, we presumably cleared out the cylinder. And then we put in this 6th round. I'm thinking that might be the moment where possibly things are going wrong in this picture. Hannah advised they all went to lunch at 12:30, and after they came back, she and Sarah took the guns to set. She said the guns were in bags at this point and described the bags to be like socks. Fine. She said the guns were checked on set. However, she didn't really check it too much due to it being locked up at lunch. Hannah said that after she did the check, she put in the last round. Uh-oh. Let's just appreciate what that says again. Hannah says after she did the check, she put in the last round. Okay. So, for many problems. The alarm bells should be going off in your heads legally and firearm safely. The alarm bells should be going off in your head right about now. If they're not, you're not paying attention to what's being said. So after lunch, we had the gun in a sock, and I checked it, but I didn't check it that much. So I didn't check it that much. Negligence. And after I checked it, I put it in the 6th round, and I didn't check it again. Negligence. Oops. Oops. I'm feeling like the armorer is an increasingly likely defendant in some future action, because you see what she did here. She talked to the police. We wouldn't know any of this stuff. She talked to the police. We wouldn't know. And we certainly wouldn't know it from her. So some of this stuff is stuff she only knows because at best other people were nearby and kind of seeing maybe what she was doing, but they had other things to do, so who knows what level of attention. And even if they were paying attention, they couldn't like see exactly what she's doing. So we're getting all kinds of fun and exciting information right from the potential defendant's own mouth. And you know what juries really, really love? You know what they love like more than anything in the world? They love it when words come from the defendant's own mouth. It's like their favorite thing in the world. Like, things coming from other people's mouth can be damning and can definitely get you to prison. But even better, words coming from the defendant's own mouth. She talked to the police, people. We wouldn't know this. We wouldn't be able to, in our mind, start constructing a criminal manslaughter case in our mind based on these new exciting facts that suddenly are like, oh, I take these fun, exciting facts and I'm already writing my opening arguments in my head as we speak for the prosecution. Thanks for telling me all these wonderful new things. That's very great. Thanks. Hannah advised a short time later she remembered she could hear the gunshot, then heard people calling for a medic emergency. Hannah stated that she looked to see Joel Souza on the ground and asked if it was the gun, to which Dave responded it was the gun that went off. Hannah stated that when she checked the gun after the incident, she checked the cartridge that would have been the one fired and said the first one pulled out didn't have that, pointing to the projectile end of a bullet. It no longer had a bullet. That's true. The bullet was now in Joel. Hannah said she checked all, by the way, just as a minor technical issue for the gun people in the room, I am well aware that the thing that's left is called the cartridge, not the bullet, but let's give them a break, okay? Hannah said that she had checked all the other rounds and they had a ringing sound when she shook them, or a hole in the side, indicating it was a dummy round. Hannah advised the box of dummies may have some wonky rounds in it, and they received the box approximately a week ago from Seth, her supplier. Hannah advised the box of dummies may have some wonky rounds. Danger. Danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. You knew that. You knew that. How fun and exciting. Thank you for telling us. You knew. You knew, and we're aware. You knew, and we're aware that some of the rounds in the box were wonky. And you were using the box anyway, with that specific knowledge in mind. Don't talk to the police, people. This would be why we tell you don't talk to the police. This would be exactly the reason we tell you don't talk to the police. Thank you for all this super helpful information as I continue to write the opening remarks and closing remarks in my head for your upcoming manslaughter trial. This is just really great stuff over here. Wow. Hannah made a statement that she did not believe anyone else on the film set would be that malicious to breathe live ammo on the set. She says she doesn't believe anyone on set would be malicious enough to bring in live ammo. Okay, kids. Okay, kids, let's play at home. Why is this statement a problem for Hannah? Why is it a bad thing that she is saying to this? The answer is because she just basically excluded all the other suspects by her own words. She excluded all the other suspects. I don't believe anyone would be malicious enough to bring a live round onto the set. She excluded everyone else. If no one else would bring a live round onto the set, what necessarily must be true? If no one else would bring a live round onto the set, what necessarily must be true? The answer would be, it was you who brought the round onto the set. Thank you for excluding all the other possibilities. That's just genius work. Your future defense lawyer thanks you. Hannah confirmed that when she was handed the gun after the incident, she was the only one to manipulate it. And it was closed when it was handed to her. Wow. Alec Baldwin was brought into the interview room at approximately 5:12. He was advised of his Miranda rights and agreed to speak with the detectives. Okay, once again, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an accomplished actor. You cannot play this game. I don't care if you're an accomplished attorney. You cannot play this game. If you try to play this game, you're an idiot. Okay? The point when they read you your Miranda rights is the point when you should say, you know what, officer, I'm going to have to go and get an attorney and I'll have to get back to you. And you should leave the room. When they tell you, you have a right to remain silent. This is a big fucking blinking clue. Clue. Shut up. Tell them, sorry, officer, I'm going to have to get an attorney and get back to you, and then just never get back to them ever. Call your attorney and be like, all calls go through this guy. I'm not talking ever. But that's okay. Alec Baldwin is a trained, experienced actor. He's won awards for his acting. I'm sure he's going to be able to get through this without incriminating himself. Lord have mercy. Alec advised in the scene that he slowly takes the gun out of the holster, then very dramatically turns and cocks the hammer, which is when the gun went off. He's telling the police he manipulated the hammer. The police might be able to get that evidence from somewhere else, but you just told them from your own words. The jury's going to eat that shit up. He said it was supposed to be a cold gun, so no flash charge or anything should have gone off. Alex said all the rounds in the gun were supposed to be cosmetic or dummy rounds. Alex advised that when the gun went off, he could recall Helena Hutchins going down to the ground and Joel Souza start to scream. Alex said that because they were in rehearsal, he assumed he had an empty gun. Therefore, when he shot gun, Helena was right there in front of him. Don't talk to the police, kids. Don't talk to police. Oh, that's interesting. You assumed, so you didn't check yourself? Oh, I wonder if we can find any evidence that, you were aware that you should check yourself. I wonder if, for example, being a member of the Screen Actors Guild and their guidelines after The Crow might be somewhat informative. I wonder of what you might have learned from prior sets about checking the gun yourself. I wonder what every armorer you've ever worked with in the past 30 years might have taught you. And you assumed. How interesting. So you didn't check yourself. Don't talk to the police, kids. Alex described the gun to be a period cold. He said that there were emails transferred back and forth, and this would be, for example, why we're saying we want to look at his emails, because he's telling us look at the emails. He just said, hey, I have emails about this. Maybe you like to know about the emails. Would you like to know about the emails? Let me tell you about the emails. Let me tell you about something about some emails. The cop's like, ooh, emails, fun. I wonder if I could get a search warrant for that. He said there were emails transferred back and forth between Hannah and him that showed different styles of guns. He said he requested a bigger gun, and he also showed him different styles of knives for production. Alex was shown a Colt with a brown handle and a cherry handle, and he only chose the one with the brown handle. So depending on his level of gun knowledge, which, he's handled lots of guns in the past, so we might be able to get where we want to be. But, he picked the gun. So, you picked the murder weapon. Doesn't hurt. You're the one who picked it. It certainly doesn't hurt the case. I mean, for the prosecution, not the defense, when I say that. In a brief search of Helena Hutchins' phones, the officer over here discovered conversations about the Rust production going back to July the 14th. The affiant, or cop friend, also discovered photographs of receipts in the phone dating back to September the 7th, showing various receipts of businesses in Santa Fe. Affiant believes gathering information prior to the film start date of Rust is essential for a full investigation. I would think so. I would think some of that information might be potentially very relevant. There's colorable relevancies. What businesses were you going to? Were any of them gun manufacturers or target ranges or bars? The cop over here requested Alex's phone from him, as well as his attorneys, and was instructed to acquire a warrant. Well, that was definitely the right answer. That was definitely the right answer. Go get your search warrant. That was definitely the right answer. You don't want to hand the cops your phone and say, please search my phone. Alec Baldwin has contacted this cop. So Alec Baldwin and the cop have talked, I'm sure, as part of the investigation. because apparently Alec Baldwin has no problem talking to the police in person, on the phone, or anywhere else. So therefore, the cop believes this to be the phone number Alex uses on a regular basis. Well, I've received a couple phone calls from this phone number, and it's always Alex. So, you know, kind of reasonable conclusion. The cop over here is aware of the entirety of the cellular phone, however, redacted the beginning of that number for confidentiality and privacy. Cop friend also believes the phone is an iPhone due to the text messages being iMessages, which is typical of an Apple device. Cop friend is requesting a warrant for seizures and search of Alec Baldwin's cell phone to search for any evidence relating to the death of Helena Hutchins. Cop friend believes there may be evidence on the phone. Yeah, there's definitely evidence on the phone. I'm quite positive. I don't know how much and how incriminating, but there's something. Due to individuals using cellular phones during and or after the commissions of crime, such information, if it exists, it definitely exists to some degree, may be material and relevant. Yeah. Cop friend was also made aware that there were several email and text messages sent and received regarding the movie production from the course of interviews. I wonder what those emails and text messages might say. I wonder what they might say about safety conditions, or people being overtired, overworked, having to drive too far and not fully concentrating, and so forth and so on. Cop friend has not included every fact relevant to this investigation, I believe that, but has included only those facts that are believed necessary to establish probable cause for the issuance of a warrant. Well, let me tell you, my friends, Judge Uncivil Law over here, Judge Uncivil Law would sign this search warrant every day and twice on Sunday. There is way more than enough information here. Way more than enough information. Much of it coming directly from Mr. Alec Baldwin himself, which is super helpful. You know? More than enough information here. So Judge Uncivil Law is going to sign that warrant, man. Thanks for all the super helpful information, Mr. Baldwin. Made my decision much, much easier. I had to think about it for, all of a quarter of a second. So, all those things. So we learned some valuable information. We learned much, much valuable information from this. We learned all kinds of new, exciting things that we didn't know before. We learned about it passing through hands and the armor over here and checking the gun and then loading it with another round and, putting it in the safe so it was only her who touched it and she was the last person to handle it. She was on set because that was something else. We thought she was offset, but no, apparently she was on set. We all thought she was offset that day, but no, apparently not. Apparently she was on set the entire time. And she personally handled the gun and personally saw one of the cylinders wasn't loading, and after checking it, specifically loaded it, and she was the only one who put ammo in it and put it in the safe and then did this procedure, and she didn't check it very carefully by her own admission. And yeah, so not looking particularly great for the armor over here. The assistant director's case, however, is looking more promising. It's a little bit harder to get to the assistant director now because we have the armorer there. So I think the assistant director might be in the clear. So I think armorer friend has elevated their risk and thoughtfully decreased the risk to assistant director over here, whose risk profile is looking much, much better. So if I'm their defense lawyer, I'm much happier. And then, of course, we have Mr. Baldwin over here who didn't check it. And, given the years of training he's had and the rules of SAG of which he's a member and his vast knowledge of firearms, which he's gotten from every set he's ever been on and probably been shooting and other things and so forth and so on, maybe he had a duty. But then again, he just saw it just checked by the armorer. So Baldwin might be in the clear. Baldwin's case is looking better. I wouldn't say he's out of the woods, but it's looking better. Because the person who's supposed to be checking it is just there and just checked it just now. So it's probably not negligent for him to rely on that, having just seen it done. It's obviously not optimal. From a gun safety perspective, of course you check it yourself. But from a legal liability perspective, it's harder. Not to say it's impossible. It's just harder. And all the rules and the SAG rules and things like that are increasing civil liability, but he already has civil liability out the ass. So all those rules and the SAG guidelines are definitely getting this to negligence in the civil case, but you know, just throw up the white flag, man. It's over in the civil case. But for criminal case, it's looking better from Alec. So I think the game of musical chairs may be coming to a stop, and I think our winner of our game is going to wind up being the armorer, based on what we know so far. But then again, we don't know everything because the cop himself said we didn't know everything, so he might have made other more interesting damning omissions. So there's that possibility. He already made more exciting damning omissions that we don't already know. Alec Baldwin might have made more exciting damning omissions. There's also his interview that he did with, on ABC, and any statements he's ever made inconsistent with any of that. And also those statements themselves give new grounds to look. And then, of course, there's the new and exciting photos, SMS, MMS, GPS, and other related data from his phones. So Alec Baldwin, I don't think, is out of the woods yet, but based on what we're seeing right at this moment, I have to say our horse to win the race is definitely the armor. So I hope you've enjoyed this race and enjoyed this discussion. Till later, my friends. Cheers and goodbye. Thank you so much for being part of the Uncivil Law family. If you enjoyed this legal education content, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. We appreciate your continuing support. Until later, my friends. Cheers and goodbye.